In this video, I'm going to show you how to add auxiliary animations such as emotions and other animated effects to your Puppet Live stage characters. So in this video, what I'm going to do is set up a completely custom Puppet stage for doing a Puppet Live performance using my Fenix character here that I rigged up for an XP Pen video in the past, and this character was specifically designed to be a live streaming avatar type character. I'm just going to add some simple motions to him and some simple auxiliary animations, and I'm also going to show you how to solve a problem that I spent this entire week on trying to solve. So we'll get into that later. Right now I'm just going to go straight into setting this character up. All I've done is put him on the stage and done nothing else. So we're going to start by giving him some body motions by opening up the puppet stage here with him selected so that this stage will be for this character. And I'm not going to worry about Motion Pilot or mocap. This is basically going to be a setup for if you're just wanting triggers from the keyboard, because this tutorial is more focused on adding the auxiliary animations. What we're going to do is we'll start by setting up cameras. To create camera, we'll go to the main camera here, and as you can see the stage switched to camera mode. We're on camera, and I'm just going to rename this camera as wide shot, because obviously we can see the entire character, and I'm going to give it a hotkey down here of 1, and that's pretty much all we need to do for that. Now if we want to create a second camera, we want to switch over to the preview camera and then move the camera in to our next view. Going to be a mid shot, about sort of waist up, roughly about there. And we'll go back to the puppet stage, which closed down because I used the camera tools. So we'll add another camera, create camera. We'll just go add, and you'll see that's added this as a camera. I'm going to rename that to mid shot, and I'm going to give that a number 2. You can see the number up here, that's the key that we press, and if I press 1 now, we'll switch back to here, and I can give this one a thumbnail just by clicking this capture viewpoint button down here so that we can tell exactly what the shots are. And I'm going to go back and add a close-up camera. I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and use my mouse so that it doesn't shut down the camera editor. And let's say that's my close-up. We're going to add another camera here and call that close-up, like so, and we'll give that a number 3. You can see that's now 3 on it. Now I can switch between all the cameras by pressing those numbers. I don't even have to be in live preview mode, they just all work. The actual camera editor is not exclusive to the puppet stage. So I'm going to leave it on 1 and we'll close that down. And the next thing we're going to do is add some motions to my character. And I might go back to the preview camera and we'll just move him over so we can see how these motions are affecting character. And up his puppet stage again. I'm just going to go to template, and we're going to go into free resource and into the animation folder from free resources down here. So it's already selected animation. I've gone into 2D motions, G3 human, male, and I'm going to do front motions. We're just going to make a idle motion as the default motion. So roll down here, we've got idle breathing, or we could have idle stand. I'm just going to do idle breathing, and we're just going to click and drag it into the window here. And you'll see on here we've got a little icon here with a 1 in it. That means this motion will play once and then stop. Or if we click on it, we can have it continuously loop, or we can have it work only play when we're moving the mouse. So I'm going to stick it on loop, and if we click this little pin icon here, that will make it to the default motion, so that when any other motion finishes, it will return back to this motion. So I'm going to click that as well. And because this is the default motion, we don't need to have a key assigned to it, so we can go in the hotkey down here and just backspace that and leave it blank. We see now if I do preview, of the puppet stage, hit space. See my character there, he's just breathing and he's just continuously doing that, and not a lot of anything else because he doesn't have any other motions. Give him a couple more motions. So let's say in this dance loop here, drag that one on. So that automatically gets a lettuce hotkey assigned to it, and will play through once. We could make that loop if we wanted to, so that it just keeps dancing and it won't default back to the first card. And maybe we'll do this doubt motion here. Got W assigned to it automatically. Then we'll do maybe this helpless one, and we could do a talk one. Talk one, maybe we'll make that loop continuously. Now if we do a quick preview just to see what this looks like, hit the preview button, press space, and you can see if I do press the Q key, now he's going to do that dance motion, and he'll just keep doing that until I press something else. This would be handy to have a E on so that I can return back to that, but we'll see what happens if I do W, and you'll see now that returns him back to the default when it's done. E, and the R button. This is a continuous loop over here as well. We might want to add a hotkey for this one so that we can get out of these continuous loops. Press space, and in this one I'm going to add Y, so that now if we get into one of these other continuous loops we can just hit the Y button and that will take us back to the default button. Now I thought I'd just quickly show you how to do facial expressions for these things, but before we do that I'm going to save this. We need to go to our custom folder, and we need to go to project, puppet stage, and I'm going to save it over the top of this one that I did before, but normally you just hit the save button. I'm going to hit overwrite and replace that and go OK, so that we can get this back if some odd reason Cartoon Animator happens to crash. Right, so next we're going to add in just a facial expression, but to do that we're going to need to animate a facial expression. So we shall go into 2D face editor and we'll open up the timeline quickly, draw on the face. And we'll just do something really quick where we use these templates. So make sure we're at the start of the timeline. I'm going to come in maybe 1 second, 24 frames, or 30 frames in Cartoon Animator. And then we're just going to do maybe happy. Which one of these happy look the best? Might go with that one. We're going to hold that, or let's say up to frame 90. So I'll hit happy 3 again, and we'll go another 30 seconds or 30 frames, and we'll go back to neutral and we'll just see what that looks like. I'll set the timeline to the length of my clip by clicking the end flag there, and we'll just play that to see what it looks like. See, his face goes happy. Okay, and we might just add in a little bit of movement in there as well. That maybe point, a frame there, maybe turn his head a little bit. Start bringing it down, and towards the end we just put it all back into the default. There we go, that's his head movement and expressions, and maybe we could adjust his pupils. This particular character, the pupils take up most of the eye white space, but we could maybe shrink them down a bit at this point. Click and drag, shrink them down there, and you'll see they grow back towards the end. So if you want to mess around with pupils and stuff, you can do that as well. Now what we need to do is save this as an expression file and get out of there. And I believe we could do either collect clip, or because we've got this selected in here, I believe I can save that directly. But what we want to do is go to animation, and we want to go to face animation, making sure you're in the custom folder here, and I'm just going to save it to the top level of my custom folder. I'm going to go save, and we're going to call it Phoenix Smiles. Okay, Phoenix Smiles. do now is completely remove the animation from here. So remove object animation, go back and just test to see if this works. So drag that back onto the character, and you'll see we have his face motion just there. Now just check he's still got all his puppet stage features. So before we do that, I'm going to undo adding that so that he doesn't have any animation on him anymore. Open up the puppet stage, and we can now drag that motion we just created onto the stage, and now we've got a facial expression. And down here you can actually mask out things if you don't want them to be animated by that expression. So say if you're using lip syncing in your motion capture, you can uncheck this and that'll stop this card from affecting the lip sync. At least that's how I believe it works from what I understand. But for now we'll just have a quick preview face, and you can see if I hit the T key, now we've got an expression in the character's face. Make him dance. We can do the Y key, and with the talking one, found with the puppet stage characters, it's good to have the talking one working off the mouse. Change that to mouse, and then preview it. Go space, change to talking by pressing the R key, and you'll see now when I move the mouse, I can sort of regulate it a bit in how much moves around, just by how quickly I move the mouse around. This isn't the best talk motion that I would use. I'd probably use one that has a little less FFD on it, but now it sort of serves our purpose. The Y key, can go back to this position there. So that's our basic character set up on the stage with some motions and how to do a facial expression, animated facial expression. You can see by this button here, you can see what things are happening, so which part is actually being animated. So when I hit, say, like the Q button, see the body's now being animated by this. And if I hit the T button, you can see the face up here is being animated by that, and then it disappears when that animation stops. If you want to keep track of that kind of thing, got this active portion option up there. But now we're going to get on to adding expressions and things, and I'm not going to do too many. I'm going to show you how to add an existing expression, and then I'm going to add a couple more things to the stage that aren't necessarily related to expressions, and then that will be it. So first thing I thought I'd show you is in the puppet stage pack here, these characters have some ready-made emotions. We'll go down into, I think we want to go props, and we want to use multi-props. So I'm going to add these tears to my character here so that we can make the character cry if we wanted to. We're just going to click and drag those onto the stage, making sure we're at frame 0 on the stage so that we don't create any animation. And you'll see we've got the tears there, both in together, and I'm just going to put them in position where the character's eyes are and size it so that it matches. And then I'm going to link them to the character's head so that if the character's head is moving while these are active, the tears will follow the character's head. So let's say there. Now these have their own built-in puppet stage, so if we open the puppet stage window, you'll see this is already set up. There's nothing that we have to do. This first card here, we'll turn these off as soon as you preview so that they're not showing. When you hit the W key, that will activate them, and it will keep activating them until you hit the E key. See, the W card is a continuous loop, the E key is a single loop, so that will end the animation and it will default back to turning them off. You can see down here their default is always hide. So these are effectively added to the character. We preview this now and go space. This will just preview the actual teardrops themselves, so nothing with the character is going to happen, just whatever happens with the tears. So if I hit W, the tears appear and they drop out, and I'll keep doing that until I hit the E key. Then it will revert back to disappearing. Now if you want to make these work with the character, this is a pretty important part of the video, and this is something that I spent an entire week trying to work out how to do, because there's nowhere in the manual Cartoon Animator or any of the videos that I could see that explain this. But now we have two lots of puppet stage windows active. We've got the puppet stage for the tiers, and then we've got the puppet stage for the character. And these tiers are called auxiliary animations. So if we want them to work with the character, we have to select the character and go into the scene menu, and we also have to multi-select the teardrops. So you can see we've got the character selected, and it's very important that you select the character first because that's going to be the main control of everything on the stage comes from the character. Now we hit control and select both teardrops. Now when we open up the puppet stage, you'll see this is the stage for the character and not for the teardrops. But if you preview this, you also notice W and E on here I've set to two different motions, so that what will happen before we get into this, if we go back to the teardrops, anything that has the same card trigger key for your auxiliary props will activate when you press that key for your main character. So if I hit W on this motion here, the character's going to start crying as well as play this motion, and he'll keep crying until I hit E, which is this helpless button here. So if I don't want that to happen, so I just want both of them to work on E, I can go in back to the teardrops, and I'm going to have to do them one at a time here. We can set this one to E, and then we can set this one something that we haven't used, maybe E. I'll do D because that's directly underneath E. Make that D, and now it's E and D, and we'll do the same for the other teardrop. So, and this one's going to be D, but we can stop the character from crying. Now, getting back to what I was saying, you want all of this to work, you need to make sure you've got the character selected, then you need to select everything on the stage that also has its own puppet stage window. And you'll notice if I preview now, you'll see the character is animating fine, but the teardrops have not disappeared. And you can see if I press Q, it'll be dancing around. Not too sure why the teardrops aren't quite following the character. We might adjust that in a minute. You'll see the teardrops themselves aren't doing anything, and that's not what we want. We'll stop that. I'm just going to make sure that those teardrops are linked to the character correctly. So I'm going to select this one. Link it to the eye that it's attached to. This one, link that to the other eye. And again, we're going to select the character and both teardrops. Open up the puppet stage, and we'll just make sure that those teardrops are working as expected. Could be because of this particular thing. Alright, so if we want the teardrops to actually work with the stage, what we need to do is go into here and check in flock settings. So we'll open up this. If this isn't working how you're expecting it to, chances are it's because this setting is on that says mimic leader, and it's got a check mark in that box. And this is obviously related to when you're trying to control more than one character on the stage, but as far as these expressions go, we don't want this set up. If we uncheck that and close this down, and now we do preview, spacebar, you'll see the teardrops disappear, and now when I hit the E key, teardrops start appearing. And if I hit the D key, they'll stop working. Then hit the E key. I think they're following the face. If we hit the T key, and still got the teardrops going, so we need to hit the D key. So if you come across this problem where your auxiliary animations aren't working, that's the issue. I also forgot to mention with the auxiliary animations, you can see what you have attached to the stage in here. Under the auxiliary button, you'll see we've got auxiliary objects, and you can see what keys you need to press to activate those. And if your auxiliary object is not listed in here, chances are you've forgotten to select it over here. You don't need this turned on. This is only handy if you have a long list of motions that you want to use or auxiliary animations, and you want to keep this over on a separate screen so that you can reference it. I'll just mention this again just so that you remember. If I go in the flock settings and activate this mimic leader checkbox, and then I try to preview this animation, you see the tears aren't working, and when I hit the E key, which is meant to trigger them, nothing is happening. I get out of that and open up the flock settings for the character and just uncheck that button, and now when I preview it, you see the tear drops are working. We're all good to go. I can hit the E key and that's all working how you would expect it to. So just quickly, I'm going to do a couple more things. We're going to make our own custom emotions, just some really simple ones, just so you can see how that's done. So we're going to close down the puppet stage for a second and deselect everything. And what I'm going to do, go into the free resources in the props pack, scene and props pack here, go into props folder, and I'm going to do a pretty basic emotion here. We got these basic icons, and I'm going to get a smiley face here. We're just going to bring that out on the stage, and we're going to turn this into an animated prop that appears when one of the other motions happens. So I'll just go back, look at his stage. Let's say when he's dancing, we're going to make this smiley face appear. So click that, above him, like so. Make sure we're at the start of the timeline, and I'll just open the timeline up. And we're going to use some existing motions to create this. So actually, close that down a sec. Go into these animations here, free resource animations, and we're going to go into prop animations, hopefully. Animation, prop motion. And under prop motion, and that up, we're going to do entrance. We might do this jump in animation. So select that, make sure I've got my icon selected here, double click, and you'll see that just jumped in. I'm not going to move anything because I want to add an emphasis to it, and I'm going to make it do this bounce down animation. So we'll add that to it. Then I'm going to go into the timeline, we're going to loop that a little bit, motions, and this bounce down we're going to loop a few times just by grabbing the end, making sure we've got the loop cycle going. To there, and I'm going to make sure my markers are at the end of that. So this is what the animation is that we've got. At the moment, start, we can't see it, and then when it's selected it's going to come in, bounce up and down just like that. What we need to do, we could do collect clip again, but really all we need to do is make sure these markers here select the start and end area of the timeline that we want to save. Go into my custom folder, go into animation and go to prop animations, prop motion, and once we're in that we can just hit save here. Give it a name, we'll call it mild bounce down, go OK, and you'll see we've got that motion in there. Now I'm going to go to the end of that animation and go remove object animation, go back to the start. Now with this object selected, we're going to open up its puppet stage, and you'll see this is completely empty, and the first card that we need on here is something to make it go invisible. We'll select from down here. If you don't see this, this is just this button here expanded. We'll hit the plus button, and we want to select this as our first card, which turns an object either on or off. We'll select that. It doesn't need to have a letter. We'll get rid of trigger key, and we want to select always hide and make that the default for this prop. And now we just want to add the animation that we just saved into the mix, and we want to make that be triggered on the card that makes character dance. So I'll just click on the character so that we can see what that is. Coincidentally, the key that we want is Q for the dancing, so we're good to go there. I'll just select the character again. It's already on Q, and we can adjust things down here, but all we need is play on trigger. If you want to trigger a second time, you can have it unwind on re-trigger, which means you hit Q again, it'll play the animation in reverse, and loop on trigger will just make it loop continuously. But I'm just going to make it play on trigger once, and we can test that by doing a preview in the spacebar, and you'll see if I hit Q, there we go, it plays through once and disappears. Again, I'll get rid of the timeline here and we'll do a preview of everything. So we want to select the character, remember. Then in the scene we need to select everything that we want to control from the stage. So we've got the character, hold down the control key and select the other props that we've set up, including the smile that I just did. And now if we do preview, hit spacebar, see everything's working, and when I hit the Q button, Q key, now we've got our nice smiley face appearing, and if I hit it again, he'll come back. And again, if we hit the E key, we can make him cry, and the D key to stop him from crying. There we go. The last thing I thought I'd set up is an animated prop if you wanted to do that. So you can literally, anything you can animate, you can put into the puppet stage and assign a key trigger to bring it into the stage or swap it out. So the last one I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the prop scene and prop pack. We're going to prop and animated props, and I'm going to add this clapperboard to the stage. And we're going to have it in front of the character as if that's going to be the start of the animation. So in order to do this, I'm going to move my selection flag down there, and these animated props have their own animations in an action menu. Do an action board start, action board action, and action board end. All we're going to do is fire each one of those off in sequence. So we'll do action board start, and we'll go to the next one, action board action, and then we'll go to the next one, action board end, and open up the timeline, up the motion for that, make sure our little flags hit the length of that particular clip for when we save it, and you'll see what happens here is the action board appears, claps, and disappears. All we need to do now is save that motion. So we need to go custom, animation, and prop motion, and I've already got one here, so I'm just going to overwrite what I did here on this one. But normally you would just hit save. I'm going to do overwrite, and now I'm going to go here, and we're just going to undo or remove object animation for that. And then we're going to set up the puppet stage for the action board. So open up puppet stage, get rid of the timeline again. And the same as we did with the smiley face, we're going to start out by giving it this toggle visibility. And we're going to have always hide, make that the default, and don't need it to have the Q up there. And now we're going to add our action board animation that we just saved into the mix, and I'm going to give it the A key, action board, when that appears. And if we preview just the action board, press space, you'll see it disappears. When I hit the A key, there we go. So now we want to test the whole thing, and I'm going to test it from camera 1. I'll just change to camera 1 and make sure we select the character first, and then select all the different auxiliary items, then open up the puppet stage. You can see here we've got all our auxiliary items in there, and I'm just going to move this out of the way so we can see the character. I check the flock setting just to make sure that mimic leader is turned off, which it is. Now we're going to do a preview. Spacebar, you'll see everything disappeared. If we want that clapperboard or action board to appear, we just hit the A key, and there you go. You can really make anything here on the stage that you can animate and have it trigger off of any button on the keyboard. So that's easy enough. And again, we can make him dance and have our smiley face appear, and while he's dancing we can hit the T key, and you can do that expression, facial expression that we gave him, and we can also hit the W key, then we could make him the E key and he'll start crying, and then we can hit the D key and that'll stop him from crying, and the R key will make him do that last motion. He's mouse controlled for talking, so I need to move the mouse. And obviously you wouldn't use a talk motion quite this exaggerated. It's a little bit too much, but the purposes of this demo gives you an idea of how it works. So when we finish having him talk, go back, hit the Y key, he'll go back. And we can change cameras, do action for that one. Go close up and make him start doing his smiley face, or have him start crying. I think it might be the FFD that's making those tears sort of not line up the best, but they are attached to his face. Stop him crying, and go W, make him think. While he's thinking, we could go back to there, and there you go. So that's how you set up a character for the Puppet Live stage completely from scratch. And hopefully if you've run into that problem where your auxiliary animations aren't working and you've been pulling your hair out trying to work out what the problem is, whether you found a bug with Cartoon Animator or what, you haven't. It's just that you need to mess around with the flock setting and make sure that this mimic leader checkbox is turned off. And lastly, before we finish up completely, if you want to save all this out, you don't want to save this as a project file, you need to save it as a Puppet stage file. So we go Content, Custom, go to the folder icon, go to Puppet Stage and hit the save button down here. I'm going to overwrite this one here, overwrite and OK. So that will save everything about the project and all of these Puppet Stage windows as well. So you can see if I go File, New Project, completely wipe that out, then open this project. You'll see it has all of my characters and everything that I set up, and it will have all my windows there ready to go in the scene, and you can see everything is already selected, ready to go. All I have to do preview, or even go straight to live puppet mode, hit the space bar, and we're good to go. I can drag this off of my screen and just start recording. There we go. Have our action board turn up while it's dancing, and we're all good to go. So spacebar to stop. So that is the Puppet Live stage. So I hope you found this demonstration useful with your own Cartoon Animator projects. If you are facing any particular challenges with Cartoon Animator, feel free to let me know in the comments, and perhaps that can lead to a future tutorial video. Don't forget, if you would like more complete training on Cartoon Animator, that I have several free and paid courses at my lazyanimator.com website, where you can learn such things as character rigging and how to animate text in Cartoon Animator. So that's it for this video. I'll leave it there for now, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.